At 3:17 in the afternoon, the sky opened. Lin Jin was sitting in the back row of a lecture hall at East Sea United University, listening to a class that had already turned into background noise. The professor was talking about supply, demand, inflation, capital flow, all the old rules of an old world. Most students were looking at their phones. Some pretended to take notes. Lin Jin looked out the window. The sky had been bright and clean a moment before. Then a black line appeared in the blue, thin at first, almost delicate, like a cut made from behind reality itself. It widened without thunder, without lightning, without mercy. Lin Jin did not scream. He did not stand. He did not even blink. So it begins, he thought. In the memories of his previous life, this day would later be called the Day of Card Awakening. It was the day humanity learned that its world was not alone. It was the day powers once dismissed as animation, legend, fantasy, and fiction began to reveal themselves as systems from real dimensions, separated from Earth only by a thinning barrier. From this day forward, 5 other worlds would begin a 100-year fusion with reality. To everyone else, it was impossible. To Lin Jin, it was the second chance he had died for. One student near the window screamed first. Then the entire classroom erupted. Phones came out. People rushed toward the glass. News feeds exploded across the world within seconds. Taipei, Tokyo, New York, London, Cairo, Rio, every city showed the same wound in the sky. Then the first card appeared. It did not fall from the crack. It manifested in front of every person as a translucent shard of light, cold and silent, with one question floating across its surface. Would you like to begin your first awakening? Around Lin Jin, panic transformed into hunger. Someone touched the card and gasped as white light drilled into his chest. A dull gray card formed in his palm. Physical enhancement. Another student shouted about improved eyesight. Another claimed he had drawn a spark spell. The room filled with flickers of white, gray, and pale blue. Lin Jin did not touch his card. The first awakening was not exactly a trap. It was worse. It was a fork in fate with no explanation attached. Most people who accepted immediately would receive ordinary cards based on their body, mind, emotions, and surroundings. Strength boosts, low-level elements, perception, minor skills. Useful, but limited. True origin cards did not come to people who waited politely. Origin cards had to be taken near the earliest fragments of collapsing dimensional walls. That information would not become public for 3 years. By then, the first generation of top awakeners would already be formed, and ordinary people would have missed the first real chance to change their lives. Lin Jin had missed it once. He would not miss it again. He stood, shouldered his bag, and looked 2 rows ahead at Zhou Mingye, his childhood friend. Zhou was round-faced, loud-mouthed, easily frightened, and better than he looked. In the previous life, Zhou had lived 3 years before dying as disposable labor in a rich family's rift expedition. Not this time. Do not touch that card, Lin Jin said quietly. Wait for me. Zhou froze. What? Trust me once. Lin Jin left before anyone could stop him. The hallway was already chaos. Students laughed, cried, tested powers, filmed themselves, called families. A boy set off the sprinklers by burning the ceiling with a handful of fire. Water came down over shouting voices and glowing cards. Lin Jin moved through it all and ran for the old gymnasium behind the lecture building. In his previous life, the first Ninja World fragment near the university had landed there, on the roof, in the shadow of an old water tower. An unnamed student had stumbled into it and gained a wind-type ninja aptitude. Useful, but incomplete. The true core had been missed. Lin Jin knew where it was. By the time he reached the gym, sirens were rising outside the campus. The black wound in the sky had widened, and within it he could glimpse impossible reflections: giant trees, waves, a white tower, a dark city, a blood-red moon. The 5 worlds were already pressing against the barrier. He climbed the emergency stairs until his lungs burned. He was not strong yet. His body was still the body of an ordinary university student. But 10 years of dying memories could drive a man harder than training ever could. On the roof, the wind stopped. Behind the water tower, a dark gold light pulsed. Inside it floated a black card, heavy as a gate. Its edges carried 7 lines: fire, wind, lightning, water, earth, black moon, white sun. Text surfaced across the card. Origin card, Ninja World, all attribute foundation. Fusion requirement, unawakened. Risk warning, fusion success rate unknown. Lin Jin smiled. Unknown for others, perhaps. For him, it was the only road worth taking. He reached out and pressed his palm against the card. The world struck back. Fire burned through his organs. Wind scraped his nerves. Lightning stabbed through bone. Water pressure crushed his lungs. Earth weight dragged him into darkness. Then came the shadow of Yin, pulling at his mind, and the white heat of Yang, trying to rebuild what the others had broken. He bit down until blood filled his mouth. In his first life, Lin Jin had been a latecomer, a survivor, a man always one step behind the era. He had watched friends die. He had watched cities fall. He had learned which choices looked safe and still led to graves. This pain was terrible, but it was not unfamiliar. When the fusion ended, he was on one knee beside the water tower, breathing like a drowning man. A new card rotated silently in his inner card case, and beneath it, 7 attributes answered him. He had taken the foundation of a system that should never have belonged to a beginner. But the campus below was screaming again. The first low-level rift had opened. Lin Jin returned for Zhou Mingye. To his relief, Zhou was still sitting stiffly in the lecture hall, hands pressed to the table, the first awakening card untouched before him. "You actually waited," Lin Jin said. Zhou swallowed. "You looked too serious. I was afraid if I touched it, you would come back and kill me." "Good instinct." Then the rift rules descended over the building. A gray-white fog rolled through the corridors. The walls flickered, tile turning to aged wood, classroom doors stretching into strange paper-lined passages. A prompt appeared in the air. Low-level rift, abandoned ninja school. Zhou's face went pale. From the fog came the dry rustle of paper feet. The first paper puppet entered the hallway. It looked almost human, if human skin could be folded, stitched, and written over with talismans. A paper kunai slid from its sleeve. Students screamed and scattered. One newly awakened boy tried to punch it and received a blade across the arm. Another threw a spark spell that burned nothing but paper scraps on the floor. Lin Jin pulled Zhou into an empty classroom and shut the door. "Listen carefully," he said. "These things are weak at the chest seal. Break the seal, and they collapse. Do not aim for the head. Do not waste strength. And do not be brave." "That last one I can do," Zhou whispered. Lin Jin used what he had, a metal chair leg sharpened against broken tile, a stolen paper kunai, the first pulse of chakra through a body still adapting to it. He killed the first puppet by letting it overcommit at the doorway and driving the chair leg through the seal on its chest. The body came apart into ash and paper. A low-level card appeared. Rock skin enhancement. Lin Jin tossed it to Zhou. Zhou stared. "You said I should wait for a better card. This is not your core. This is so you do not die before we find it." Zhou fused it with a grimace. A rough layer of stone spread over his forearms. He looked terrified, offended, and slightly proud. "I hate how useful this feels," he said. Lin Jin did not laugh. The rift was expanding. In its early stage, the abandoned ninja school would drop 3 useful resources: basic ninja tools, chakra extraction experience, and the key to a hidden ninja tools shop. Most people would run toward the public gathering area on the athletic field. In Lin Jin's memory, that field would soon become a feeding point for monsters. Their route lay behind the old laboratory building, through a maintenance passage toward the rift's outer warehouse. On the way, Zhou saw the new world clearly for the first time. He saw a student shove a classmate toward a paper puppet to buy himself time. He saw a teacher trying to organize evacuation while trembling too hard to speak. He saw a boy laughing over his new flame card until a paper kunai cut his shoulder and ended the laughter instantly. Zhou's voice shook. "Is this what it becomes?" "This is the gentle beginning," Lin Jin said. It was cruel, but Zhou had to learn quickly. Kindness could survive in the card era only if it grew teeth. Kindness without teeth became food. At the edge of a broken corridor, Lin Jin saw Shen Liyue for the first time in this life. She stood beside an injured girl, one hand shining with cold moonlight. Ice threads pierced 3 paper puppets in quick succession, cracking their chest seals with frightening accuracy. She was calm in the way some people were born calm, not because they felt no fear, but because fear did not get permission to command them. In the previous life, Shen Liyue had become one of the strongest female awakeners in the eastern region, known as the Ice Moon Queen. She had refused to belong fully to either rich families or official agencies, building her own exploration team instead. She had died in the 5th year during a Cursed City Rift disaster, using her domain to push thousands of survivors out. Now she was only a university student with a fresh card in her palm and blood on her shoulder. She looked at Lin Jin, then at the ash on his weapon, then at Zhou's stone-coated arms. "You know where to go," she said. It was not a question. Lin Jin glanced at the injured girl. "Can she walk?" "Barely. Then she slows us down." Shen Liyue's eyes cooled. Lin Jin stepped forward, examined the wound, and tied it properly with torn cloth. I said she slows us down. I did not say we abandon her. Shen Liyue watched his hands. You learned first aid. People die fast if you do not. She accepted the answer without accepting the mystery behind it. They moved together, Lin Jin in the center, his shadow clone scouting ahead, Shen Liyue supporting the injured student, Zhou guarding the rear with more courage than technique. When puppets attacked, Lin Jin marked weaknesses, Shen Liyue froze seals, and Zhou blocked clumsily but effectively. It was not graceful. It kept them alive. Near the outer path, the fog thickened around a crooked wooden storefront that should not have existed on campus. A sign hung above the door, half hidden by mist. Only 2 words could be read. Ninja tools. Official responders arrived almost at the same time. Their leader was Chen Yu, a man Lin Jin remembered as one of the first official explorers. Steel bone enhancement, strong discipline, firm moral lines, and absolute faith in order. Not a bad man. Not a gentle one either. You 3, Chen Yu called. This area is under emergency control. Identify yourselves and prepare for registration. Lin Jin looked past him at the fog. The 8th bell has already sounded. Your team is standing on the first patrol route. Chen Yu's expression changed. The puppets came before the argument could continue. This time the fight happened in front of the official squad. Lin Jin deliberately held back the deeper parts of his ability. He used paper kunai, footwork, timing, and knowledge of weak points. Shen Liyue's ice needles did the clean work. Zhou stumbled, blocked, cursed, and survived. When the last puppet fell, the shop door opened. 3 entry marks floated out. 1 landed on Lin Jin. 1 landed on Shen Liyue. The 3rd landed, against every obvious expectation, on Zhou Mingye. Zhou pointed at himself. Me. Lin Jin was not surprised. In the previous life, Zhou's first card had been a low-level storage ability, mocked as useless at the beginning and priceless later when spatial cards became strategic assets. But what made Zhou special was not only storage. It was a hidden luck bias, a tiny tilt in random judgments, qualification draws, trade discounts, and low-probability drops. The shop had just recognized it before anyone else did. Zhou's untouched awakening card finally trembled and fused into him. A small storage grid opened before his eyes. He nearly forgot the danger out of joy. Inside the shop, shelves held paper bombs, kunai, scroll fragments, medicines, and objects covered with cloth. Behind the counter sat a smiling paper clerk with a wooden tag on its chest. Zhou whispered, "It looks like a scammer." The paper clerk's painted smile widened. Lin Jin ignored the bait and went straight for 3 items, a chakra extraction scroll, a black iron seal-breaking kunai, and a damaged summoning card. The damaged card mattered most. Its surface was torn, but the aura inside it matched a memory from the first life. It was expensive, far beyond their current stock of low-level cards. The clerk offered a second price, not cards, but a future promise. Shen Liyue frowned. Lin Jin understood why. Rift shops loved future promises. Many people took bargains in the early days and later found themselves forced into missions far beyond their strength. But if this card was what he thought it was, the risk was worth taking. He paid in low-level cards, borrowed resources from Shen Liyue, accepted Zhou's contribution with a glare that promised repayment, and refused the future promise. The paper clerk looked disappointed. The damaged summoning card slid into Lin Jin's hand. Incomplete summoning card, wandering genin of the ninja world. Summoning requirement, first rank. He could not use it yet. But he had obtained his first summoning card. The shop closed after 10 minutes. Outside, official containment was tightening. Drones circled overhead. Police lines sealed roads. Medical tents appeared at the campus edge. The old world was trying to wrap paperwork around a miracle and a disaster at the same time. Lin Jin led Shen Liyue and Zhou away from the obvious route before full registration could trap them. They rested in an old underground storage room that Zhou's family had once used. It smelled of dust, old cardboard, and emergency supplies. For the first time since the sky split, they had a door between themselves and the screaming world. Lin Jin examined their gains. The chakra scroll could stabilize his foundation. The black iron kunai could pierce low-level seals. Zhou's storage grid gave them logistical value far beyond its size. Shen Liyue's Ice Moon card was already proving better than most early-stage combat abilities. And the summoning card waited. To reach first rank, Lin Jin needed more than ordinary kills. He needed concentrated rift energy, proper circulation, and the courage to use shadow clone training before his mind was fully ready. He did it anyway. In the underground room, he divided his attention, formed a shadow body, and forced the clone to circulate chakra through the new foundation. Pain stabbed through his head. The clone's exhaustion returned to him in waves. It was dangerous, inefficient, and exactly why the technique would become valuable later. One body trained. The other planned. Zhou watched the clone look at him with the same disappointed eyes as Lin Jin. "Even the fake you judges me," Zhou muttered. "That means it works." When the wandering genin was finally summoned, the room changed. A young man appeared in a crouch, short blade ready, eyes sharp enough to measure exits, threats, and weaknesses in a single sweep. His name was Qingyuan's son, though the contract translated it imperfectly through the card system. He was not a puppet. He was an otherworldly fighter compressed, suppressed, and dragged into reality by a half-broken summoning rule. He did not kneel. Lin Jin respected that. "Temporary contract," Lin Jin said. "I provide survival, information, and a path to restore your strength. You provide reconnaissance, combat support, and knowledge of ninja world rules." Qingyuan's son looked at him for a long moment. "You speak like someone who has seen too much." "I have." That was enough for the first agreement. The next morning, the city was awake in panic. Stores were crowded. Streets were blocked. News vehicles gathered near the university. Everyone looked up at the crack in the sky as if staring could hold it closed. Official agencies counted casualties and tried to classify awakeners. Rich families began buying cards, information, and people. The black market, faster than either, was already hunting. Lin Jin moved before they could be boxed in. With Shen Liyue and Qingyuan's son, he searched the old district near the campus for scattered fragments from the first barrier collapse. At an abandoned electrical station, lightning flickered over rusted equipment. Hidden inside a sealed power box was a lightning release fragment called Thunder Walk. It was guarded by a trap. Qingyuan's son saw the pattern first. Lin Jin used the black iron kunai to break the seal, then fused the card through his all-attribute foundation. Pain flashed along his nerves, but when it settled, lightning answered his movement. At a burned timber lot, they found the fire release fragment he remembered. They were not alone. 3 black market awakeners had arrived first, one holding the red card and assuming possession meant ownership. He was wrong. Lin Jin struck with Thunder Walk before the man understood what speed meant in the new era. Shen Liyue froze a wind user's wrist. Qingyuan's son disabled the strongest fighter without wasting emotion. Lin Jin did not kill them. Killing early would create official pressure and unnecessary traces. Letting the black market learn fear was more useful than leaving bodies. When the fight ended, Lin Jin held both fire release and lightning release. His early combat frame was finally forming: fire for distance, lightning for movement, wind and shadow for tactics, black iron tools for seals, and Shen Liyue's ice to control the field. Then the ranking system opened. Every awakened person heard a clear sound inside the mind, like a crystal bell. A translucent panel unfolded at the edge of vision. The first global rift rankings had begun, measuring low-level stable rifts, temporary rifts, individual battle records, and team performance. Zhou nearly choked on instant noodles when he saw East Sea City's list. Qianyu was second. Shen Liyue was third. Zhou Mingye, somehow, was 17th. Lin Jin's name did not appear. The origin card had shielded part of his record, leaving the top position anonymous. That protected him for now, but anonymity was also bait. Officials, rich families, and black market brokers would all want to know who had surpassed Qinyu. Shen Liyue's phone rang soon after. Her family had seen the ranking. They wanted her home. They wanted explanations: what card she had drawn, who she had been with, why she had not fully registered. She answered calmly and did not promise obedience. Lin Jin did not interfere. If Shen Liyue could not face pressure from her own family, she would not survive as a core teammate. A true partner could not be protected from every storm. She had to choose her place with open eyes. The rankings forced Lin Jin to move sooner than planned. Without legal status, every rift entry would become trespassing. Without a team license, every resource trade would be pushed toward the black market. Hiding was useful only at the beginning. Real freedom did not come from avoiding rules forever. It came from gaining enough value to negotiate with rules. So Lin Jin returned to the official blockade. He brought Shen Liyue as visible strength. He brought Zhou as registered support. Qingyuan's son stayed hidden in the shadows, observing escape routes and possible tails. At the checkpoint, Lin Jin said, "I want to apply for temporary exploration status, and I can provide intelligence on the second phase of the East Sea University rift." The guards hesitated until Shen Liyue stepped forward. "I am Shen Liyue," she said. "Third on the city ranking. I want to speak with the highest person on site." The name opened the door. Inside the command tent, Shen Liyue listened with guarded eyes as Lin Jin described the rift's next phase: the abandoned classrooms, the training field, the outer warehouse, the flagpole that had to be secured before midnight, the elite puppet teacher that would otherwise appear in the third phase. 2 researchers wrote down every word. "How do you know this?" Shen Liyue asked. "My card can interpret part of the rift rules." It was not exactly a lie. It was simply not the whole truth. Lin Jin offered proof. "Send a team into the outer warehouse. He would guide them. If the resource point did not exist, he would accept registration and isolation. If it did, he wanted temporary exploration team status, autonomous recruitment, fair contribution sharing, and no forced surrender of personal bonded cards." The command tent went silent. 7 minutes later, the answer came back. "Not a civilian team. Not yet. But a temporary support exploration team could be tested under official command." Lin Jin added 3 conditions: specific card names would be protected as classified, adapted cards would be compensated if requisitioned, and the team could refuse missions obviously beyond their rank. Shen Liyue stared at him as if reassessing his age. Then he agreed. Zhou tried to name the team something ridiculous. Lin Jin ignored every suggestion. Shen Liyue proposed something cleaner, something that would not attract unnecessary mockery and still mark the people at its center. The Jinhua Temporary Exploration Team was formed. Lin Jin became captain. Shen Liyue became deputy. Zhou was registered as logistics and defensive support. Qingyuan's son remained an unregistered shadow asset, to appear only when necessary. Their first official task began the same day. They entered the rift through the reinforced maintenance passage behind the old laboratory building. Passing through the gray-white fog felt like stepping into denser air. Walls turned to wood. Paper scraps covered the ground. The distant bell had stopped, replaced by the creak of wooden training stakes. This time, the official squad moved with them. Lin Jin did not show everything. He showed enough. He marked puppet seals. Shen Liyue used precise ice needles instead of wasteful freezing. Zhou blocked paper kunai with stone-covered arms and collected drops with almost comical diligence. Shen Liyue's steel arms crushed a ninja dog when it lunged for a medic. The team advanced twice as fast as the previous official sweep. At the outer warehouse, Lin Jin's intelligence proved true. 3 wooden racks held low-level ninja tools, damaged scrolls, blood-stopping talismans, and puppet fragments. More importantly, a small light circle pulsed in the center, producing low-level cards at intervals. It was not high-quality output, but it was stable output, and stable output meant strategic value. The researchers could barely hide their excitement. By afternoon, the mission was complete. The officials had data. The Jinhua team had contribution points, legal exploration records, and the first fragile proof that civilians could cooperate without being fully swallowed by the system. Then came the formal interview. Lin Jin sat across from Liang Qingru, a senior official whose calm voice carried more pressure than shouting would have. She confirmed that his intelligence had been verified and that the team's trial status would remain active. Then she gave conditions. He had to complete Awakener registration. He had to submit regular rift analysis reports. He could not sell high-risk intelligence to unauthorized private groups, especially corporations and black market forces. Lin Jin heard what was not said. Protection and surveillance often differed only by paperwork. Liang Qingru asked about Gu Qingzhou, the young heir from the Gu family who had already tried to contact them. She asked about Lin Jin's background, ordinary family, ordinary grades, no special training. She asked why, after the sky split, he suddenly possessed tactical judgment, rift knowledge, and combat instincts far beyond his record. Rule interpretation, Lin Jin answered. That explains information, she said. It does not explain temperament. For a moment, the tent was quiet. Lin Jin thought of 10 years of rift war. He thought of Zhou dying with a joke in his mouth. He thought of cities burning under skies full of worlds. He thought of all the people who had mistaken obedience for safety, and all the powerful men who had mistaken control for victory. Some people adapt quickly, he said. Liang Qingru knew it was not enough. She also knew he was too valuable to crush immediately. Outside the tent, Shen Liyue heard the last part of the exchange. When Lin Jin came out, she did not ask him to confess everything. She only looked at him and said, "Your map will not always work." He stopped. She continued, "If the team survives only because you know what happens next, then the day your information fails, we all die. I will become stronger. Zhou will become stronger. The people who join later cannot just be pieces you place on a board." Lin Jin was silent for several seconds. She was right. His actions had already changed the timeline. The second barrier fluctuation might come early. Hidden groups might move sooner. The ninja school rift had developed differently because he had taken resources that once belonged to others. The farther he went, the less perfect his old map would become. He did not need pawns. He needed a team that could think, fight, and survive when memory was no longer enough. "You are right," he said. Zhou, who had woken up at the worst possible moment, raised a hand. "Then I request less training." "Denied," Lin Jin said. Qingyuan's son, hidden near the tent entrance, added, "I can teach him traps." Zhou looked betrayed. "Why me?" "Because you are the most likely to step in one." For the first time since the sky opened, laughter touched the edge of the team. It did not make the world safer. It did not close the crack above East Sea. It did not stop officials, rich families, black market hunters, or otherworldly forces from turning their attention toward Lin Jin. But it proved something small and stubborn. They were alive. They had a team. They had legal standing, hidden strength, and the first cards that could change the early game. The evening after the interview did not feel like victory. The campus perimeter had become a temporary city of floodlights, barricades, medical tents, command vehicles, and frightened families waiting behind police tape for names that might never be called. Every few minutes, a stretcher came out of the fog. Sometimes the person on it was conscious. Sometimes the sheet was pulled too high. Zhou Mingye stopped joking when he saw the third stretcher. He stood beside Lin Jin with both hands in his pockets, fingers clenched around the edge of his storage grid as if the little invisible space could somehow hold back the weight of what he was seeing. Earlier, he had been proud of being 17th on the city ranking. Now the number felt smaller than a grain of dust. "We really got lucky," Zhou said. Lin Jin looked toward the gray-white fog behind the reinforced entrance. "Yes." Zhou waited for the usual correction, the usual cold analysis about preparation not being luck, but Lin Jin did not add one. Some facts deserved to remain simple. They had survived because Lin Jin knew too much, because Shen Liyue was stronger than her age, because Zhou's hidden luck had awakened early, because Qin Yuan's son had chosen cooperation over pride, and because the worst monsters of the future had not yet arrived. Luck had absolutely been part of it. That was why it could not be trusted. Near the supply tent, Qin Yu argued with two administrators who wanted all recovered cards moved to a central research truck immediately. His voice stayed controlled, but the set of his shoulders made the answer obvious. The battlefield team wanted usable resources near the entrance. The research side wanted cataloging, isolation, chain of custody, and ownership records. Both sides had good reasons. Both sides would slow each other down. Lin Jin watched without interfering. This was the shape of official power at the beginning, not a single will, but many urgent wills pulling in different directions. Rescue, control, research, public relations, military security, political responsibility. A person could negotiate with one official and still be trapped by another department's procedure 5 minutes later. Liang Qingru understood that. So did Qin Yu, though he would not admit it aloud. Shen Liyue returned from the medical area with a new bandage across her shoulder and an expression cold enough to warn Zhou not to ask whether it hurt. She carried a small sealed packet in one hand. "Compensation," she said, handing it to Lin Jin. "Contribution points, temporary access pass, and 2 low-level recovery cards." Zhou leaned over. "Only 2?" Shen Liyue looked at him. 2 is generous by official standards. That is depressing. Reality often is. Zhou opened his mouth, closed it again, and decided that arguing with her after a day like this was less survival instinct and more self-harm. Lin Jin examined the packet. The access pass mattered more than the recovery cards. It gave them a limited right to enter the outer rift zone under mission conditions. Limited rights could become precedents. Precedents could become systems. In the first year of the fusion, the people who understood how to create legal precedents would gain almost as much power as the people who understood combat. The previous life had taught him that too late. Back then, Lin Jin had despised paperwork. Most independent awakeners did. They thought official stamps were chains, so they refused them until the day they needed hospital access, legal trade channels, travel permission, auction entry, safe storage, or the right to keep what they had risked their lives to obtain. By then, the terms had already been written by people who had shown up earlier. This time, Lin Jin intended to show up early. Not as a servant. Not as an outlaw. As a negotiating party. He took one recovery card and gave the other to Shen Liyue. She did not take it. "You are more injured. You are more visible." That made her pause. Lin Jin continued, "Your ranking is public. Your family has already started pressuring you. The official side will treat you as a symbolic high-value awakener. If you look weakened, more people will decide you are easier to move." Shen Liyue's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in recognition. She accepted the card and fused it without ceremony. A soft white glow moved over her shoulder. The wound did not disappear, but her breathing became steadier. Zhou looked between them and sighed. I miss when our biggest problem was whether the cafeteria chicken was real. It was not, Lin Jin said. Zhou stared at him. You knew. Everyone knew. For one brief second, the three of them were students again. Then the sirens beyond the barricade reminded them that the world had not paused for the joke. Qin Yuan's sun appeared only after they left the brightest part of the camp. He stepped from the shadow of a half-collapsed equipment shed so quietly that Zhou almost walked into him. Zhou jerked back. Can you please make noise like a normal person? No. Was that a personality answer or a tactical answer? Both. Shen Liyue looked at Qin Yuan's sun's short blade, then at the official lights behind them. Were we followed? 3 times, Qin Yuan's sun said. 1 official observer. 1 civilian scout. 1 person with killing intent, but weak discipline. Zhou's face changed. Killing intent. He left after seeing the command tent guard rotation. That is not comforting. It was not meant to comfort you. Lin Jin's expression remained steady, but inside, the answer tightened several threads together. The official observer was expected. The civilian scout might belong to Gu Qingzhou or another early-moving family. The third one was more interesting. Killing intent on the first day meant either a black market hunter moving too quickly or someone connected to a hidden group that understood the value of early targets. The future was already shifting. In the previous timeline, most secret organizations had remained quiet for several weeks, harvesting information while governments struggled to classify the crisis. But Lin Jin had changed the opening board. He had taken the origin card. He had entered the ninja tools shop. He had exposed enough intelligence to create an official team trial. He had caused Shen Liyue, Zhou Mingye, and Qin Yuan's sun to gather earlier than before. Every advantage created a ripple. Some ripples saved lives. Some called predators. They returned to the underground storage room after dark. Zhou locked the outer door twice, then pushed a filing cabinet in front of it. Qin Yuan's sun inspected the corners and silently improved the barricade in ways Zhou did not understand. Shen Liyue sat near the far wall, reviewing the temporary access agreement line by line. Lin Jin spread their cards on an old folding table. The inventory was small, but in the first 48 hours of the card era, small did not mean weak. Black iron seal-breaking kunai. Chakra extraction scroll. Damaged summoning contract, now bound. Thunder walk. Small fireball. Rock skin enhancement. Low-level storage grid. Ice moon. Paper kunai fragments, puppet seal scraps, blood-stopping talismans, and several low-quality cards suitable for trade or emergency fusion. Zhou looked at the table and slowly smiled. When you lay them out like that, we look rich. We look visible, Shen Liyue said. Lin Jin nodded. She is right. Wealth that cannot be defended is bait. I was happier 5 seconds ago. Get used to shorter happiness. Zhou groaned and dropped into a chair. Lin Jin began assigning roles for the next phase. Shen Liyue would focus on precision control, not large area freezing. Her card had enormous potential, but early overuse would damage her channels and make officials underestimate her technique by overvaluing raw output. Zhou would train defensive interception, item retrieval, and emergency retreat. His storage grid was too valuable to expose fully, so outside the team he would remain a clumsy but useful logistics awakener. Qingyuan's son would map the unofficial routes around the rift and identify which ninja world signs belonged to traps, shops, or resource nodes. As for Lin Jin, he would do the dangerous part. He would continue refining the all-attribute foundation while pretending to be a rule interpretation support type. Shen Liyue noticed the wording immediately. Pretending, she asked. Lin Jin looked at her. The room became quiet enough for the distant helicopters to be heard through the ceiling. Zhou sat up straighter. Qingyuan's son leaned against the wall, expression unreadable. Lin Jin had known this moment would come. Trust had to be rationed in the early card era. Too little, and a team broke under suspicion. Too much, and one captured teammate could destroy everyone. The truth of rebirth was too heavy to place on the table now. Even if they believed him, the knowledge would change how they acted. It might make them dependent on his memory. It might make them reckless. It might make them afraid of futures they could still avoid. So he gave them a smaller truth. My card is not only interpretation, he said. It gives me compatibility with multiple Ninja World attributes. More than one. Enough that if outsiders confirm it, every major force in the city will try to own, dissect, recruit, or kill me. Zhou's eyes widened. Shen Liyue did not look surprised. How many? Enough, Lin Jin said. Qingyuan's son's gaze sharpened. As someone from the ninja world, he understood the implication better than either of the others. Multiple attributes at the beginning were rare. Full foundational compatibility would be absurd. Then hiding it is correct, Qingyuan's son said. Shen Liyue studied Lin Jin for a long moment. That still does not explain everything. No, Lin Jin said. It does not. The answer was honest enough to stand, and incomplete enough to keep them alive. Shen Liyue accepted it for now. Zhou rubbed his face. Great. Our captain is a walking confidential document. That is why you are logistics. I thought I was logistics because I am reliable. You are logistics because your storage grid is useful and you panic loudly enough to distract enemies. That is a cruel but detailed performance review. The training began before midnight. Not dramatic training. Not the kind told in heroic songs. It was ugly, repetitive, and exhausting. Zhou practiced raising rock skin only over the parts of his arms that needed impact protection, because full coverage wasted energy and slowed him down. Shen Liyue practiced forming 3 ice needles at consistent size, then dismissing them before they consumed too much power. Qingyuan's son drew trap marks in chalk and made Zhou identify which lines meant pressure trigger, which meant false path, which meant sensory seal. Zhou failed often. Qingyuan's son looked personally offended every time. Lin Jin trained apart from them, forming a shadow body again despite the ache behind his eyes. The clone worked through chakra circulation while the real body studied the temporary agreement, the city map, and the first ranking data Zhou had copied from forums before posts began disappearing. Information was already being cleaned. Names were vanishing. Videos were being removed. Rumors were being planted to bury useful facts under nonsense. The first information war had begun without announcement. Near dawn, Zhou finally managed to detect one of Qin Yuan's son's simpler chalk traps before stepping on it. He celebrated too loudly and stepped backward onto another one. Qin Yuan's son closed his eyes. Shen Liyue, who had been awake for nearly 20 hours, laughed once under her breath. It was a small sound, almost invisible. But Lin Jin heard it. In his previous life, there had been very few sounds like that after the first year. People laughed, of course. They joked in trenches, in broken shelters, in rift camps where everyone knew the next mission might kill half the room. But the laughter always had rust in it. This was different. This was early enough to still belong to people who had not lost everything. Lin Jin wanted to protect that. Not by freezing the team in innocence. By making them strong enough to keep something human after innocence was gone. When the first light of morning touched the basement window, the team had slept less than 2 hours in total. Zhou was sprawled across a chair with a backpack as a pillow. Shen Liyue sat upright, eyes closed, one hand still resting near her card. Qin Yuan's son remained near the door, half meditating, half guarding. Lin Jin stood beside the table and watched the cards turn slowly in the dim light. The day of card awakening had ended. The first full day of the new era had begun. The old world had ended at 3:17 in the afternoon. By the next day, Lin Jin was no longer merely a reborn survivor running alone toward a forgotten rooftop. He was the holder of the Ninja World Origin card. He was the captain of the Jinhua Temporary Exploration Team. He was the anonymous shadow above the city ranking. And whether he wanted it or not, every force in East Sea was beginning to understand that the new era had already dealt one of its first major cards into his hand. Far beyond the campus, the sea reflected a black flag through the dimensional wound. In a forbidden inland forest, a hunter from another world looked down at a map of Earth. In an old European cemetery, a white spirit opened its eyes. In a dead subway station, the first low-level curse crawled across the ceiling and smiled at the crowd below. The 5 worlds were not waiting. And Lin Jin knew that winning one campus rift was only the first move. For Lin Jin, the most dangerous part of the new era was never the first monster. Monsters were honest in a brutal way. A paper puppet wanted to cut. A ninja dog wanted to tear. A rift trap wanted to punish the careless. Once a person understood the rule, danger became something that could be measured, avoided, or killed. People were harder. By sunrise, East Sea was already dividing itself into circles of information. Official agencies had maps no civilians could see. Universities had student lists and family contacts. Hospitals had injury records. Rich families had money, drivers, lawyers, private security, and the ability to make a frightened awakener feel chosen before anyone else even learned their name. Black market brokers had speed. They did not need permission, only rumors. And somewhere beneath all of that, the hidden groups were waking. Lin Jin remembered some of their names from the previous life. Some called themselves researchers. Some called themselves believers. Some claimed to serve humanity by preparing it for fusion. Others worshipped the worlds beyond the barrier and considered Earth nothing more than a shell waiting to be opened. The worst ones did not look insane. They wore suits, owned laboratories, sponsored relief funds, and spoke very gently while turning desperate people into experiments. The first week would decide who reached the vulnerable. That was why Lin Jin could not simply hide in Zhou's basement and grow stronger in secret. Secret strength had value, but only if it could one day be used in the open. If he waited too long, the rules of access, ownership, rescue, recruitment, and punishment would be written without him. If he exposed too much, he would become a target before the team could defend itself. Every step had to carry two meanings. To the official side, he had to appear useful enough to protect and controlled enough to tolerate. To the rich families, he had to appear expensive enough to negotiate with and dangerous enough not to seize casually. To the black market, he had to appear unprofitable to hunt. To his own team, he had to become something more difficult than a commander. He had to become trustworthy. Trust was not built by telling every truth. In the card era, that kind of honesty could be a weapon handed to the wrong person. Trust was built by standing where you said you would stand, paying debts quickly, sharing gains fairly, and never spending another person's life to protect your pride. Lin Jin had failed some of those tests in the previous life. Not because he had been cruel. Cruel people were often easier to predict. He had failed because he had been tired, late, frightened, and too accustomed to loss. He had learned to survive by calculating who could be saved and who had to be left behind. Sometimes the calculation had been correct. Sometimes it had only been convenient. This life would not forgive him just because he remembered the future. Memory was not redemption. It was only a tool. Across the room, Zhou snored with one hand still resting protectively on his backpack. Shen Liyue's breathing was even, but her fingers tightened whenever a siren passed above them. Qing Yuan's son did not sleep at all. He sat near the door, blade across his knees, a summoned fighter from another world listening to the heartbeat of a city he did not yet belong to. Lin Jin looked at them and understood the real change. In the previous timeline, he had entered the card era alone and spent years trying to become hard enough that loneliness would stop hurting. In this timeline, by the second morning, he already had people beside him. That made him stronger. It also made him easier to wound. The sky outside brightened by a thin degree. Through the small basement window, the black crack above East Sea could still be seen, faint but undeniable, a scar across morning blue. Somewhere inside that scar, 5 worlds pressed closer. The ninja world had touched them first, but the sea world was already sending shadows. Forests of beasts, towers of souls, cities of curses, and powers with names humanity had not yet learned were moving toward the same point. Earth had not been invaded. Not exactly. It had been invited into a game whose rules were written by worlds far older and far crueler than itself. Lin Jin picked up the black iron kunai and set it beside the origin card's silent glow. The first move was over. The board was awake. And from this moment on, every card he played would teach the world how dangerous he truly was.